Welcome, welcome to another virtual water cooler event live. I'm Steve Wright, and this is my little corner of the social media ecosphere, uh, where I rock up every week and chat with people who come and join me or talk by myself. Um, just checking around the screens here to make sure everything is kicked off on the live, and hopefully we'll get some people coming to join me here. And looking forward to another stimulating chat. Had a good chat last week. Last few weeks have been very interesting. Just commentaries on things that are I don't know, not necessarily edgy, but just having a clear stance in terms of what we believe and what we're about, and it was really insightful, and I found it really helpful. So, looking forward to some stimulating conversations today. And actually, there was something that prompted a thought today, which was around Dean Seddon, Seddon. I joined his live event today, and if you're watching this or get this on a replay, Dean, hi, and very interesting live in terms of just sharing about showing up and giving an F. I won't say the word because my mom's watching. She watched last week, and I'm mindful that I don't want to say anything that will kind of upset my mom. And that's interesting because it kind of leads into what Dean was sharing about playing safe in social media spaces. And I can understand the need to be more real in those spaces and not trying to placate or please everybody, because trying to please everybody ends up pleasing nobody. And I understand that. But at the same time, sometimes the algorithms and the platforms really do lean into very polarizing views, which I don't even think are necessarily genuinely held by the people who espouse them. And sometimes you're given a space in which you can be more anonymous and be more bold, things that you would not necessarily say in even in mixed company, let alone people that are your peers and believe the same as you. Um, but we tend to be a lot more vocal, a lot more vociferous, vicious, even sometimes in social media spaces, because it's easy to troll, it's easy to dismiss. So I don't know. I don't think necessarily that we're any more transparent or being real when we're sort of maligning people or abusing or being obnoxious to sort of gain notoriety. Any fame is good fame, I guess. So in being infamous is just as can be just as helpful, as useful as being famous, as we can tell from American politics. But don't take me down that rabbit hole. So yeah, so that was very insightful to kind of drop in on Dean's thoughts around that. And while I agree that there's the middle ground doesn't really help anybody necessarily. You're not finding your super fans, as he mentioned the book in his life. You really do want to have people that can align with you, know who you are for what you are, be real, because keeping a fake persona or keeping up a fake image is boring. Well, not boring. It's taxing. It's something that doesn't really serve you well, and you're going to get found out. So, and the more interest in the lie, the more people are going to sort of dig beneath the surface. So, all that said and done, yeah, very insightful. For me, and hopefully I get some guests coming in. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself or talking to you by myself. This week's been good. I've been working on we are in the second week of the 12-week cohort that we started on September 28th on the Sunday, running for 12 weeks. And very insightful in terms of just learning and creating the content for that. And I've got my good friend here, Mr. Whiskey. My mom, my, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir. My hat got a little damaged in my trip to Arizona, so I got to go back to the store to get it rebrimmed and stiffened up and everything. So
Oh, rebrimmed and stiffened up. I like that.
yeah, well, what they do is they have a hot steam machine and they it softens it up. You fold it and then they use some stiffener. As you can see, this side is up higher than this side, and I got to get it to like I like the
Okay.
wider brim. Some people have their hat like this. I think it looks
Yeah.
to each their own. You know.
I like yeah, I don't like the turn up at the sides there so much.
I know.
I'm
Look,
gonna
it's janky. I'm just gonna sit like this the whole time
There you go. There you
at
go.
an angle.
I'm going to invite a brand new, a net new guest to the platform here. Camille is in the green room, and I'm going to just invite her in here. Camille, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Good, good, good. Where are you joining us from?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay, okay, cool, cool. Well, welcome. This is your first time here.
Hello.
What prompted you to join? I've got to ask because oh,
Invited me to join
say that
today.
again. You froze for a second.
Mr. Whiskey invited me to join.
Oh,
I don't know. I've never met this woman before in my life.
what?
I don't know who she is. I mean, she must be confused with like Mr. Tequila or something. I
So,
don't know.
so, 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 Camille, I'm intrigued now. How do you know Mr. Whiskey?
We met at a Jax Creators networking event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Good. So, what do you do in the world? What do you do for your activities?
I'm a student right now, a junior in college. I'm studying graphic design.
Nice, nice, nice. Very, very good. What do you hope to do with that?
I wanted to go into UX UI design. I started college as an information systems major,
Mm.
but I'm hoping to do something more on the visual side.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good pivot, I think, because yeah, the technology. I've been in IT. Well, I was in IT. I'm less in IT now, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I have a technical background in that respect. So the technology's always been insightful.
You've been
Um,
in IT for 160 years, according to the 12-week year cycle.
because don't listen to me. He's tweaking the 4 years.
I'm applying periodization to your timeline. Is all I'm
Very
doing.
good. Very
Periodization
good.
allows you to break free of the calendar, and if you're interested in learning more about it, Steve Wright actually guested on a podcast called Couple of Nukes in an episode called "Breaking Free from the Calendar: Periodization to Maximize Timelines and Goal Setting." So you should check
Wow.
it out when you have the chance to check it out.
So yeah, Camille, this is what Mr. Whiskey shows up to do every week. He comes in. It's totally unprompted, and
He
I
doesn't pay
don't
me at all. Yeah.
the Donsters in the house, and I don't pay him.
Don Gleason. We
I'm
were
not going
talking
to.
about him bird watching just a few days ago,
I'm not going to pay him either. But he always pitches something that I'm doing. So there you go.
like Pilates
Don,
at midnight.
Don, good to see you. Don, meet Camille. Just over here. Can you hear us? He's looking at the screen very intently, and he's clicking away.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I can. I can hear you now.
Hmm.
I'm going to check to see if my mum is watching because she was interested about us liberating, about you saying that I liberated Jamaica. So she, yeah,
I didn't say
I
it.
didn't
You
realize she
said
was
it.
actually on the call. But
Well, shout out Mrs. Wright. I have not listened to the podcast episode where you get
You probably
interviewed.
hear me.
On my to-do list.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
You can hear
Yeah.
me. I can't hear
Yeah.
you yet. Okay.
The man. Oh,
Communications.
I guess there wasn't enough room. The character limit didn't allow for the myth and the legend to follow that.
Myth and legend.
The man, the myth, the legend, Don
There you,
Sterk.
there you go.
I know him professionally as Don Gleason, but
He shows up here as the.
but
as the Don.
he's retired now. He just goes around from state park to national park to
He's going to drop.
he's
his
off
name
to
again.
Yosemite as we speak.
So here's a thought. I wanted to share. I was just sharing before you guys joined about. I was on a live. I joined a live earlier today that was talking about not giving an F. I won't say the word on LinkedIn. You know, sort of speaking. I guess the premise was don't play it safe, or you know, express your opinion. And that's annoying. You're playing with that. You're playing with that.
I
You're
don't
playing
have
with those whiskers.
Look, I got it. It's starting to curl up.
Oh, okay.
Steve, when you stroke your beard, I don't say anything.
Oh, well, I'm scratching my chin. I'm not stroking my beard. But the premise was not giving. You know, was not, I guess, not playing it safe on social media platforms. And he mentioned LinkedIn because it was a LinkedIn live. And like I said, while I can understand, you know, if you're trying to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody in that respect, because maybe people aren't clear as to what you're about and what you mean. And with that, it's like it's important to be as true to yourself as possible, but both on and off platforms. I think sometimes people who have a persona that is more sort of polarizing or more agitating. I mean, you're going to be just as annoying in person as you are on.
And you're dressed as if I would meet you on the streets of London. So
yeah,
that's funny because Paul and I were just talking about this. He's actually the LinkedIn expert. So shame that he's not here to join us right now about this conversation. Because I think, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a balance between professionalism and authenticity. I mean, like here's what I'll say. I appreciate the guests I have who ask first, like, hey, is it all right if I curse on your show? My personality is I curse a lot. But if your audience is not that kind of audience, if your platform is not that kind of platform, I'll respect it. Then I had some people who just come on my show, foul words ablazing, and they are who they are unapologetically. But I think there's a balance to be had, right? I know LinkedIn has evolved beyond just a very professional environment, but I think it's important to keep it a certain platform. I think one of the beauties of LinkedIn is that it's not Instagram, that it's not Twitter, that it is professional. I think when you start to break that down, it's going to end up becoming just like those other platforms, and it defeats the purpose of why it was created. You know, just like I think it's important to have a business platform, a social media specifically for business. I understand it's people first and connecting, but the whole point was that it was more professional. And I feel like when you take that away, what's the point in even having it? You might as well just go on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or X or TikTok or YouTube Short, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting. What are your preferred platforms, Camille? Being the younger one in the audience here.
I do have LinkedIn. I don't use it much though.
And by design, by preference, you'd like to use it more, or you're just happy not using it because you have other ways to communicate?
It's okay. I feel like I haven't really navigated it. I use Instagram more often to reach out to new people and make connections that way. But other than that, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. And are you a commenter, or are you a consumer? Do you create content?
I do. I post, but not regularly, you know.
Okay. All right.
Well, Steve, on that note of Instagram, what I will say is all the conferences I've been to, There are people like who still do business cards. A lot of them now just do like a digital thing. You can scan their watch. Some of them have a ring that you. I think I'm supposed to evacuate. Huh. That was weird. Smoke detector started going off. I hope it's not carbon monoxide.
Maybe the battery's low.
Yeah, I hope not. I've had to replace them many times before.
Have you got pants on?
Yeah.
I hate when people online get up because I'm never see Whiskey Shot's ears are in the picture. Whiskey Shot wants to take over. Hey, Whiskey.
That's funny.
Don, are you on other platforms? Are you active on other platforms?
Mainly on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay.
So
the old Camille, aka the old crowd, right?
Yeah.
and I'm really trying to keep the two separate. Facebook is really kind of family and friends. I use a guide of would I invite them to go to lunch? Have they invited me to go to lunch? Are we that kind of friends, right?
Yeah.
Versus LinkedIn, which is more professional. I mainly know you because of work, because of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And not to say that I can't have some friends over on LinkedIn.
Of course.
Right? Or some professional guys on Facebook. But I kind of use that as a divider. With the John Maxwell team that got separated because they do everything over there on Facebook.
Okay.
They have multiple groups. So it was a little bit challenging for me to keep that straight. But as I'm winding down a little bit on all my activity with John Maxwell,
okay,
I'm pulling that back out. I just deleted about 800 people on Facebook. I had no idea who they were.
Oh, wow.
You didn't delete me, right, Don?
I did not.
I like seeing the pictures of you hiking and bird watching. It's funny because I actually just had lunch with a guy I met on LinkedIn, Paul D. I don't actually know how to pronounce the rest of it, but Paul, who's been on here, him and I got lunch with Camille in Jacksonville.
Oh, cool.
I posted Steve Wright in it, and he never responded. But Justin Workman responded because when it comes to responding, Justin responds to me pretty fast. Steve Wright, it'll take at least 2 virtual water coolers of me reminding him to go check out what I said.
I responded
you did
to your
respond
post.
to the picture of little Whiskey Shot in the purse. That was.
I did, and I also responded. I also commented on your announcement about becoming an addiction coach.
Ooh, was that on Instagram? Because I announced it on Facebook too. I announced it on LinkedIn.
I think it was on Facebook. Put it on Facebook.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think I liked it, but
yeah, Don Gleason did like it not too long ago. I did see that. No comment.
Yeah, I did like it, but I don't think I commented.
Yeah, that's right. I'll take a like. But the point I was making before some random alarm went off, it was probably I don't know what that was, but I don't even know if it was in my place. But what I was saying is, so on the virtual business cards, what I found though is the number one thing that people give me at conferences. Some of these conferences are 3,000 people. Some of them are just local gatherings. Instagram is the number one thing to give people. Not LinkedIn, not Facebook. Everyone gives me their Instagram. Everyone asks, do you have an Instagram? And originally when I started the show, I didn't. I did not have one. It was not my thing. Now I post twice a day, or at least once a day, just for pushing content. But there he is, the LinkedIn expert. But yeah, Instagram. Like I've never once, maybe a few times, I've had some people ask me for like, hey, do you have a LinkedIn? What's your name on LinkedIn? Does it mirror that older crowd? Yes. Sometimes the same thing with the older crowd, they'll ask, do you have a Facebook? But most people, if they're an entrepreneur or a business owner or in that creative space, they ask me for an Instagram or they give me an Instagram. And that's at podcasting conferences. That's at faith-based conferences. That's been at voice acting conferences, all different industries.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure there's some more business conferences that I haven't been to that might be more like, hey, what's your LinkedIn or here's your business card. Like I have business cards and I have found that I very seldom have to give them out. I like to, but most people just say, just hand their phone. They're like, put in your Instagram, or they're like, Mr. Whiskey, I already found your website. Like,
Yeah.
shoot, I didn't even finish introducing myself. You know, I was on my third title, but okay.
That's inter- that's interesting. That's interesting in terms of yeah, I mean I've had a few people ask about or I've asked LinkedIn and they've gone, well, you know, follow me on it, get me on Insta. Um in the music circles, it's a mismatch. I mean, a lot of people I've talked to personally, I've got WhatsApp connections with them. Sometimes they'll have Insta or Facebook, depending if they've got groups or they've got posts. Some of the places I go,
So
the
WhatsApp is more
venues
for
have it.
international, from what I've experienced. Like anyone who asks for my WhatsApp is usually from like a different country or travels a lot.
It's easier to connect. And my daughter in Cambodia uses Facebook quite a bit. It's interesting that and
A
Google.
Right Designs.
Adina White, yes,
Yeah,
Adina White Designs.
I
Adina
can
White dot
almost
design.
I can almost tell fraudsters and scammers because as soon as they try to connect with you, they're looking for your WhatsApp number.
Mm,
It's like, yeah, I think I'm good right here until we get to know each other, right?
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So I do have an
interesting.
Instagram, and I guess my first post of the day off Facebook rolls to Instagram, but I don't
You
normally
can
post
connect
on
it.
Instagram.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
you
connect the
can
two.
connect it automatically because they're both meta.
Yeah.
But like, I don't. My Instagram stuff doesn't go to Facebook or vice versa. So like, how it works for me is my Instagram is more than my Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook and LinkedIn, it's only my show episodes promoted and then some big business stuff. Instagram is where you'll get the fitness stuff. You'll get clips of my show. If I post, I don't post clips of my show on LinkedIn or Facebook unless it's something really vital. But I feel like it would just flood so much. I don't know. One of my problems with Facebook is so many notifications. I'm getting invited to different groups every day because
Yeah.
people just, send an invite to all, or someone will mention at everyone at all. And I'm sure I could modify the settings to tweak that, but I barely use it. But like for me, I use each platform differently, and I just say that to tie back to Steve when you asked about like LinkedIn, should it not be is LinkedIn being too strict and professional? I guess is a question, like talking about like don't care what you say on LinkedIn. Back to that conversation.
Yeah.
Me, I am very mindful about what I post on which platforms because like LinkedIn to me, like I said, is that more professional one, and not that my stuff on Instagram is not professional, but some of it is just about my life. It's just pictures of me in a shirt that says whiskey helps and I'm drinking boba tea, right? It's just a more social thing that doesn't really benefit clients or my relationship with them on LinkedIn. I guess to your point, would it be authentic? Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm not authentic on LinkedIn or that I'm withholding part of it. It's just like
Hmm.
for me, this is business. Let's talk business. And if you want to talk more socially, then let's go to a different platform or let's meet up or
Gotcha.
something. But for me, that's just how I personally use it. And I'm sure
That
we
that
got the LinkedIn expert down below,
yeah,
Paul.
that's interesting. Good to see
Watch
you,
him say the
Paul.
opposite of me. Watch him say you should curse on LinkedIn.
Good to,
Yeah.
good to see you. Good to see you, Paul. And I know you've already met Camille and Whiskey in person, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um,
All I'll say is Paul is his authentic self, but there was one thing different about him that I didn't expect. I'm gonna leave it as a cliffhanger for anyone.
oh,
Yeah,
I'm
so
intrigued.
you'll have to meet Paul in real life, or you have to go to the Couple of Nukes Instagram and look at the post to find out. Maybe it's in the caption, maybe it's in the photo, but that's
Oh,
your
what is it? What was it, Paul? Did he tell you what it was, Paul? I'm intrigued now.
Paul knows what it is.
Oh, it's always the same thing that like I tell people because I've met up with probably like over the past 3 years like over 1,000 of my social media connections online. Last year alone was like 300 connections on LinkedIn,
Wow.
and I always tell people like I'm the exact same person online in person, except that I'm just a lot taller because people are so used to like seeing me in the little bubble.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Gotcha.
that was the thing. No, yeah,
All
good
right.
to see Mark and Camille and Don. Good to see you. I know it's
Good to
been a
meet
while
you.
since we've been on.
Yeah.
Um,
I
He's
talked
been
to
yeah,
you.
working
We've met before.
Yeah, that's cool. So what the we can take it down rabbit holes because this is the water cooler. But I sort of kicked off the call or the live with the premise of something I saw in a live before. I'll give him a shout out, Dean Seddon, and talking about, you know, whether we should care whether we care too much. We're trying to play it safe in our social media spaces. He mentioned LinkedIn because he was a LinkedIn Live in particular, and it's interesting because the LinkedIn platform has a different connotations to others. But at the same time, just what Whiskey was saying there in terms of, you know, I do this on one and I do this on another, or Donster. I'll use the name that's on the screen, okay? Just
there you go.
Just to give it some props. like Donster says, you know, I keep if it's someone I'd have lunch with or I'd hang out with, then they're in my Facebook space, and if it's more sort of business focused, then I'd be using LinkedIn. Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I mean, so we have different personas or different representations in different environments, without necessarily being divisive or duplicitous. You know, we don't have to have split personalities.
Right.
We can still be ourselves in those different places. So I guess the question becomes, you know, how much do we shift between the platforms, and you know, when, and then generally, I think my first question was, if you wouldn't say it in person, you know, would you say it, or should you say it in some anonymous response to something that you say?
That's why cyberbullying is so rampant, because you have the anonymity of it. Like, you have the different profile name or the different profile picture, and a lot of people, it's like, okay, if this person was actually standing in front of your face, would you say XYZ, especially if it was something racist or sexist or whatever it may be, or to someone who's, you know, 2 feet taller than you and 100 pounds heavier than you? Would you actually say that in real life? And I've even equated this to when you're driving. When you're behind the wheel and the car's between you, you act very different than like, you could be a patient saint in the real world, and then you get driving and the road rage just, you know, takes over. But I mean, Steve, I think you have the best perspective on this, being a teacher in a space of education. Like, I feel like you're your authentic self, but there's some things you would not say in a classroom that you would say to your friends at lunch, or vice versa, right?
Yeah, and it's part of, I think that there is an innate core to who you are, a being to who you are, and it's identity. That's harder to change. We know that in all of the sort of coaching spaces and transformation spaces, that identity is the root, and that's the hardest thing to change. You can shift behaviors maybe, or perspectives, for a while, but until you start dealing with who you fundamentally believe you are, you're not going to see sustainable or long-lasting change or transformation in that respect. So we understand that there's an innate part of that, and it's nice to have that being bolstered or reinforced by faith. You know, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and I always come back to that, especially as I get older, because, you know, things don't work like they used to. So you go, oh, you know, I'm still fearfully and wonderfully made, regardless of where you are in life.
That's right.
And kudos to Don. I mean, Don's back and active after that bout of sciatica, and you know, it was
Well, God crippled him in the hip. I remember that.
It was tough. It was empathetically tough to see him go through it, because, you know, it's one of those things. I've got a dear friend whose wife had a bout of that, and just that short time that she was suffering with it or inflicted by it was really, 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 really painful, and just it shifts your life. It just tweaks you. So
it gave me a whole different perspective. I mean, a week and a half on my back and another 2 weeks before I could even hardly walk to the street. You know, it's like, man, it just took a whole month out of me.
Yeah.
So
A lot of free time to listen to the One-to-One Thing podcast. It sounds like.
that's right.
Always got to put a plug in there. So,
I
so
did
once
a
it's-
bunch
I
of
get
that.
to your question about educating, and I know that you deliver information in a way that it can be properly received, and you don't walk into a primary school math class, teaching differential equations or algebra, right? You set the teaching to the level, and you set the communication to the level, and that's fair. But y- my concern is that algorithms and platforms where you can be anonymous, and there is no consequence of being vindictive or vicious. You don't, that becomes now a problem,
I,
because you polarize people, or you polarize views
yeah.
very quickly.
I will tell you, if I start seeing a lot of hate speech from people, like on Facebook or whatever, they're immediately unfriended and probably blocked. I just don't even want it in my life. There's just no room for bullying or hatred or anything like that. I just saw a post this morning. I'm a big Detroit Tiger fan, right? My team is in the division series in the playoffs, and we were not expected. You go back about 14, 15 months ago, we weren't expected to do anything. And all of a sudden, we got in the playoffs last year, and this year we started out the best in baseball. All of a sudden, they collapsed in September. And the hate speech, I mean, they're wishing people death, wishing people injury, the players, the fans. It's like, why in the world? It's not like the baseball team is going out every day and saying, hey, we're going to screw this up today on purpose, right? We're going to collapse. And they're trying their best. There's a bunch of 23, 24, 25-year-olds who are just really been in there 2 or 3 years and they're learning. And the coach is trying to help them through the mindset. The mindset is the toughest piece. They're probably trying too hard. They got so many high expectations. They're probably trying too hard. And but that doesn't mean you should hate them and wish them death and harm. And it's like there's just no room for that. I just don't believe in it. And I have found that I just don't curse. It's probably my Christian background, but also in the military, I didn't want to be that kind of leader who was a cusser and a swearer.
I've been holding that part of the conversation in the back of my mind when we were talking about, cursing in a professional environment. And the first thing I thought of was military leaders adjusting to the civilian environment and the way they teach, and how a leader will talk when the captain's present versus when you guys are in ranks behind closed doors, And Steve and I have talked many times about cursing more doesn't make work get done faster or the message clearer. I think the only time that like David Goggins did a thing where people called him out because he's a Christian, but he swears a lot and foul swear. And he said some people just hear the message that way, and if I'm not for the people who don't need to hear it that way, that's fine. But there are some people who need to hear it that way, and I agree. One of the things you learn in leadership, like I had a guy on my show who was like, when I become an XO on the submarine, I'm not going to send people to captain's mast. I'm going to be very empathetic. And he said he had to realize that discipline and consequences sometimes are much more important than leniency and giving so many chances, because people will abuse it. And so sometimes you do need a stern talking to. But I think on the other end, some parents are always stern and never understanding. They don't ask those questions of, why are you behaving this way, rather than a lot of people make the child the problem. You're failing school. It's not, why are you failing school? Is there something going on? It's just, you're failing school, do better. So I think there's different approach styles for different times, but so many people get caught up in just their way is the right way, like this is the best way. And I think there's plenty of good books on leadership out there, but you reading that book and trying that style, it might not work for who you're talking to, or it might not be in alignment with your identity. I think sometimes saying, oh, well, Tony Robbins speaks this way and he's very successful. Well, you might need to speak a different way based on who your demographic is. Or
he cusses like a he's a cusser.
Yeah, we all have to develop our leadership style, right?
Yeah.
And how we do it. We were talking on a mastermind this morning at 6 a.m. We were talking about the word resilience. And does everybody have the same level of resilience? No. Right? Because we all have different tools, different techniques, different learnings, different experiences. We grew up differently. We developed our resilience different. It would be neat. We were talking about, wouldn't it be neat to have a resilience meter on your forehead? So when somebody walked up to you, like in basic training, or if you're a police guy, right, policeman, and you're meeting somebody under stress, right? Wouldn't it be neat to see how I deal with them based upon their resilience to this, right? And there's so many of those you could talk about.
Yeah, your credit score right on the front of your forehead.
Yeah.
You walk into the bank, can I get a loan? No, you may not.
It is
That's that big alarm that was going off.
Yeah, my credit score.
It's not on there. It's not. It doesn't appear on your forehead, but but someone, the person you're asking for a loan, has got that meter somewhere. It's interesting. What's the? I'll go around the room on this. What is the understanding of the definition of resilience?
Oh, that's a great question. I was walking this morning when we talked it, but it's the it's the ability to, and this is just mine, I'm putting words together. It's the ability to be able to handle and walk through situations and come out on the other side.
Okay, cool. Paul, what's your take? I know you got a take on it because you're a learned guy, a deep thinker. Camille, you got any ideas?
I would say, for me, I look at resilience as just being able to have kind of like a relentless bounce back, like not being affected by circumstances or environment, and just always finding a way to, I guess, like solution oriented type of thing.
Yeah.
Like not dwelling on your failures or previous experiences, and just trying to improve the next one.
Yeah. Do you have a thought on it?
I think it's hard to go through anything though and not be affected, but you use it to grow and develop.
Yeah.
Continue your resilience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Paul.
Yeah. I think just the ability to endure when facing challenges, not brushing past it, but also reflecting and learning from what's happened to you, and growing from it.
Cool. Yeah.
Mike and Steve, or are you gonna go?
Go. I'll go last.
The first thing I thought of was, just because of the military experience I've had, was performance under pressure were the first words that came to mind. That's something you hear a lot in the military. What I want to say is, I think what differentiates resilience from just making it through something is not survival, but thrival. So I think resiliency is part of the emphasis is performing the expectation or better. It's different than, oh, I just made it through that situation. If someone says you were resilient about it, you performed at expected or better. You didn't just like meet the cut. Like you, despite hardships, still made the cut or performed better. I think resiliency is a stronger word than just having done something. It's acknowledging the hardships, what should have stopped you from doing it. You still did it, and then some as well.
Mm-hmm. I always go back to its technical definition of meaning, and it's, for me, and I like the technical definition because it gives it a context, in the sense that resilience is the measure of how far you can take something from its norm and it will come back to its norm. So if you imagine a rubber band, the more resilient a rubber band is, it may be able to stretch, it may be able to be deformed more further and then come back to its normal state. Or it may be able to take a stronger load and then come back to its normal state. So the resilient part of the part of that definition is coming back to the state. Something acts upon an object, a piece of material, a band, for whatever, and it deforms it, but the resilience of that material brings it back to its norm. And then in how we use it in our circles is just as good. I mean, it's not a either or. I think it's an and. when we understand our level of resilience, then we can expose it to more things that are much more like the edges of our comfort zone, for example. It's no point being resilient in the middle of your comfort zone, because you're never being stretched to test your resilience. And likewise, as you go through things that inform you of how resilient you are, you can then present yourself to other challenges and other opportunities and other growth opportunities. It's not always adversity that you have to show your resilience in. It could be in an opportunity that you step into, and when it's pulling you left, right, and center, you come back to a state that shows that you are, that's where your resilience comes from. So for me, that's it's almost two parts. Part A is the ability to deform and come back to that state, and then the second part of that is, now that you've got that learning, something happened, derailed you, you got back on track, using that learning to take it to the next step, whether it's through endurance, whether it's through growth, whether it's to sort of mitigate adversity. Don't do that again, because it's not good for you. So but it's an interesting discussion point, because we can kind of shift definitions, and then someone goes, well, what is it, how do you define it? And then so
well, to Don's point, I was going to say, to Don's point too, with your analogy, if you know that after a certain point, a bowstring or a rubber band will snap, it will break. You can only pull it back so much. So if you picked up a rubber band and there was a number on it that said, hey, you can pull this exactly 3 inches or 1 foot before it breaks, and you had that with people, that would be great. I guess, like, what's interesting with people compared to the rubber band is they can go into burnout and they can exceed their limits. Like, a rubber band snaps when it snaps, but with people, I mean, technically they can go beyond that, and if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Ball Z, you go beyond your limits,
No, but you're I mean, even like Don's example of, you walk up to a person. It could be a person in authority, it could be, any situation you find yourself in a not confrontation necessarily, but you're in some form of interaction. And if that interaction is likely to deform either party, like, I'm asking for something that I'm not used to asking this person for, or I'm instructing a person to do something that may be at the edge of their skill set or their limits or beliefs or whatever, I am now asking them to stretch from their norm. And I don't know how far my request is taking them out of their norm, and that's where interactions like this allow you to see what you can say and what you can't say. And it comes full circle in terms of, why would you rubbish a sports team when, one, you got no insight in terms of how they play the game, you got no empathy in terms of what they're trying to do, and they don't, like Don says, they don't wake up every morning trying to be the worst, trying to play the worst baseball. Is it Tigers? Yeah, worst baseball. Then
well, I saw a post about this once. It was a picture of like 5 overweight middle-aged guys eating nachos and drinking soda, and they're like, come on, why didn't you just run another 100 meters? You could have got the touchdown. And it's like, the point of the joke was that there will be people who could never do that, like people who are watching American Ninja Warrior, they're like, you couldn't hang on for one more doorknob in the air to cross across water. And it's like, to your point, they don't know the person's athletic abilities. And I think it would make sports really scary. Let's say you're a wrestler and you get up to the mat and the guy across from you, his resilience meter says like 100,000, and you're at like 100. You're gonna be like, oh shoot, this is gonna be a bad match, But it would be interesting, like you said. You can kind of see, like, I think an example is like, maybe you're at a funeral and you've got even more bad news to deliver, and you see people's meters are really low, and it's like, who can I confide in with this news and it's not gonna break them? I think it would be cool. But I think something you mentioned, you kind of hinted at, was communication, right? You said like interactions let you know what you can and can't say. And that just comes down to communications too. Like, it's your like it's your responsibility to see how resilient other people are, and it's also your responsibility to let people know how resilient you are. Like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that, or hey, that's too much for me. But a lot of people, I've done a lot of episodes on my show about people pleasing. You throw away your resiliency. You're like, I don't care about my limits or my factors. So I think it's important. It comes down to communication too, and
That's a great
respecting
point.
that.
That's a great
What do
point.
you
Don
what,
was grinning. I want to hear what
what do you
caught
think?
him.
What do you think about the leader whose his stated sole purpose is to take you beyond your resilience point and break you?
Ooh.
So I mean, I don't think that's disrespecting people. So I think, like, I'm thinking of the military, for example. If you sign up to be in an environment where your resiliency is not going to be respected with a cup of tea and like it's okay sport, then that's appropriate, right? But if you're in an environment where, like especially a romantic relationship where your resiliency is to be respected, then that's not appropriate. But to your degree, in sports, in job training, even, I think it is appropriate to disregard that. But I think there's a boundary. That's why we have HR. That's why we have leadership. Even in the military, you can have third party investigations. There's a difference between like Don, you'll know this word, but for those who don't know, hazing, right? There's a difference between military traditions that build character and camaraderie and maybe push you past your limits to just bullying and inappropriate behavior. So to your point, Don, I think as a leader who is meant to pull people past their resiliency, you have to be very careful about that balance and what is appropriate. So I think it just comes down to responsibility and communication and individualization, right? You could have a whole division of sailors or soldiers who are super resilient. If one guy's falling behind, I think it's important to find out why, what's going on, and take care of that person. Pull them aside if you have to. Don't treat them differently unless you really need to. Maybe it's medical, maybe it's mental. But also, I think if you can modify it to still push that person proportionally to their resiliency to everyone else, you just got to be careful because that builds resentment. If everyone's running a mile and a half and this guy only has to run half a mile, people are going to get upset, especially if it's not blatantly obvious why that is so. But also at the end of the day, if captain or drill sergeant says, hey, that person is running as much as I tell them, but out of it, I mean, in the military, you got to do that respect. But it's important for the leader to know that authority doesn't stop resentment from building. It doesn't stop hurt human emotions. It'll keep people quiet when you're around, but you need your authority to be around when you're not around.
Oh, wow. Say that again.
That's quite a
Put that on a
statement.
t-shirt.
You need your authority to
right.
be around when you're not around. Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. It's interesting you talk
I
about
think-
resentment being over pushed.
Yeah.
Go Don.
I think leaders need to be able to judge when they're pushing somebody too far. And if your intent is to grow them, right, you pull back or you keep them there to be able to get them to grow. I think if you break them, you take them past the resilience point, you create a situation now that is no longer productive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know that there's any growth going on there. It's
Yeah.
in fact, it can be negative. It can be resentful.
Yeah.
So you go back to basic training in any military. I think they are there to push you. Think of U.S. Navy SEALs training, right? On the beaches of San Diego, and they're 48 hours awake, and in and out of the water, and lifting telephone poles and all this kind of stuff. They are trying to see how far you can go, right? Because when you get into an operation, you don't know what you're going to come up on.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to pull inside of you and go that extra mile when you are totally exhausted.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not every day.
Yeah. I
Gotta carry the boats and the logs.
Yeah. I got the metaphor or the imagery of muscle fibers. Typically you grow muscle by tearing the fibers. But you don't over tear them and you don't overstrain them, because if you end up damaging tendon versus muscle fiber, you've got a different kind of situation on your hands. Your body's
That's
going
right.
to resent you in a sense. It's going to tell you it's too far.
Yep.
But the muscle metaphor breaks down when you think about mental resilience, because in some respects there needs the I don't know, maybe it still works.
Your brain has
Breakdown.
physical limitations too. I mean, I'm no neuroscientist. I'm a theologist, but I think that's why we have burnout. Like your brain does need a set amount of time to sleep at the end of the day. It does need
Mhm.
a certain amount of nutrition. You physically, you could say, I want to read for 8 hours today. You cannot read for 8 hours straight. Like at some point, your brain is just not picking it up. I've had that where,
Mhm.
hey, I just read that paragraph. I don't even know what it said. Now I got to reread it again.
Mhm.
And then I probably reread it 3 times. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk the dog, but like, I think it still works with your brain, right? Like there's a difference between like, I'm reading this stuff for 8 hours a day, not getting any of it, or, hey, I'm going to read for a set amount of time each day, have my rest period, right? Because just in the gym, you have your rest periods, you're rehydrating, you're eating right. I think it's the same thing with your brain. Like you can regenerate brain cells and grow new ones, but only at such a rate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, the plasticity. I mean, that's when the resilience. That's when the the deformity, the stress or the challenge that came up, equips you for the next time or the next scenario. You've actually grown in that ability to bounce back or to come back to a state. I mean, Hell Week or Navy SEAL training, and some of that's sometimes you go into a situation with an expectation of a challenge, and in some respects that doesn't make the challenge any easier necessarily, but it does wire you, engage you for the news. It's like sharing news with someone. If you start by saying, this is going to be a difficult, I've got a difficult thing
I
to
got
share.
good news and bad news. Which one do you want first?
Well,
The bad news is there's no good news. Here's the bad news.
so that even that priming, that short priming in a conversation helps with that resilience meter straight off the bat, even before the news is delivered. It's definitely helpful to understand that there's, I guess, context, expectations, and take to your point, Don, about leaders taking someone beyond breaking. That it begs the question, why? Why would you do that?
Well, and sometimes what you can handle isn't what other people can handle, but
Right.
you assume. I've had this difficulty actually. Sometimes like it was hard when I was dating civilian women when I was in the military, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm so tired from my 5-hour shift," and I had a 12-hour shift. I'm like, it's like no, it's like sometimes it's hard because like I've had things where I could walk for miles and miles, and this person's like, "Oh, I'm tired. Can we take a rest?" And it's like, "What are you talking about? We've walked only 12 miles. Like, we're gonna walk another 18." Like when you're sometimes you apply what you can do or what you think is normal to other people. So for
Can't
me,
do
when I
it.
hear people are like, "Wow, 2 hours of studying is so much," I'm like, "Well, I used to have to study for 4 to 5 hours nuclear science. Like, what are you talking about?" I think sometimes we have a bad tendency of overestimating people's abilities, or rather applying our own limits to them instead. And what I want to pivot back to real quick is you talked about expectations. My one caution with that is David Goggins has a great clip where he's like, they would go for a run, and toward the end point, people would start laughing and smiling. "We did it, boys, we're almost there." He goes, "You would have these instructors who would hear the laughing and smiling, and they will keep running right past the end point. Everyone stopped laughing. Everyone stopped smiling. Heads would drop. Souls were being took. At that moment, I knew what happened. They were living off the hope factor." Yeah, I won't go. I could quote the whole thing.
What?
I don't live off that hope stuff.
But I get that. But at and at
expect
the
the
same
unexpected. Expect more.
yeah, and at the same time, I mean that can be a
Mhm.
thanks for joining, Camille. Great to see you. All right,
Thank you so much.
all right, take
Bye.
care. Um, the hope is not a bad thing, and
Hope is a good thing.
yeah, what
I
right?
just hosted a conference
If it's your
about hope.
plan, that's a different thing.
Ooh, write that, Steve. Write that down. What he just said. Add that to the t-shirts.
If it's your plan,
Yeah.
hope
If
is
it's
a
Yeah.
good
your
thing.
plan.
I mean, hope is what dreams come out of. Hope is what visions come out of. It's what drives us. We want
Yeah.
things to be better. But when you come down to it, if all you're doing is hoping that things get better, you're not
Yeah,
taking
hope is
actions.
in place.
Like hope
Yeah.
without action. But
Yeah.
the reason I say that is because the expectation of testing someone's resilience in a communication, or even exposing your own. Like, I'm really not sure how this is going to go. It's the first time I've done this. I'm been nervous about this whole scenario, and setting up that vulnerability in my resilience level, so that you know where I'm at. So that
Mm.
I'm sharing it in a way that I'm sharing it partly in a way that informs you that your expectation might not be my expectation.
Mm.
And if you're used to running 12 miles and I'm used to walking a quarter of a mile, then we may have a disconnect here. So I'm
You
letting
jump
you
rope
know.
1,000 times in a minute, and I only jump rope 100 times in a
Yeah,
minute.
over your hat.
But to your point, Steve, I think because like with the special forces thing, right? I wasn't sure what to expect because I never done that before, that mock deployment mission. Even with boot camp, a lot of people would just diminish your anxieties. They'll just say, "Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's not that hard." I think a lot of people just diminish when you try to like set the expectation, like, I'm not ready for this. You'll say, "Hey, I'm nervous about this," and you will just say, "Ah, it's fine. Don't worry about it." And it's like, and to the point, like I think like experiences happen as you live them. So like you could watch the Navy boot camp video, every version of it. You can talk to sailors about what happened, and you're gonna go there and be like this. I didn't expect any of this, even though you knew exactly what was coming. Until you live it, it's like I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, it's like you can listen to all these stories and videos, and until you live it, I mean, each person's experience is unique. I truly believe we all individualized, like you said, we're all made differently, and so I think it's yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but you get what I'm saying.
I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I think all of this comes down. There's common threads here in terms of being real, saying what being online the way you'd be in person. You know, you've met people on this call in person, and it's consistent. I mean, it would be hope would be torn if you hope that somebody that you talk to online is a certain way, and then you meet them in person, and that is just totally
Paul and I
different.
talked about that. A lot of people who meet their heroes are like disappointed, or like meet people online. Like,
Mm.
yeah.
So, and the other I lost my point. My other point. Yeah, experience in terms of forming that communication. Sure, you can read a manual that will give you some information. Sure, you can watch a video that may give you more information. Sure, you could talk to somebody who's done the thing that you want to do and have a conversation. You can train with that person, or actually follow them as they do it. You know, Tony Robbins talks a lot about that in terms of matching and mirroring and modeling behavior, modeling ideal behavior, and not just watching what someone does, but looking at the organizing principles that they adopt in order to do it. And I did a bungee jump, which on the face of it sounds really fearful because you're jumping with a rubber band on your feet. And I've done a skydive, which again sounds on the face of it sounds illogical because you're jumping out of a plane, with attached to somebody. But the thing is that both of those experiences were with people that tried and tested and walked that journey already, and they had as much skin in the game as I did. So it's very different than someone walking up and saying, "Marathon, you can do it." and you don't know what I've got. You don't know what I've got under the
Steve's done
bed.
3 marathons, everyone, ladies and
You
gentlemen.
know,
Steve has done 3 marathons. Just so you know.
and the first one I did, it was purely it was Dunning-Kruger syndrome. I just said, yeah, let's do this. I signed up for a marathon
And as he
with,
was finishing,
military
the
guys,
first person was
Marines.
already
One of the
done.
guys was a Marine, ex-Marine, and he's like, yeah, you know, we run those distances all the time, and they were talking over a barbecue about doing a marathon, and I thought we were all in on it. The other friend is actually an athlete. He's a good runner, older guy, but he's a really strong runner, and he'd done a marathon before, and we talked about this around the barbecue, and we said, okay, great, let's do this. I went home and signed up, and the other two, like,
The follow through. Steve, I still laugh. I was rewatching our episode together, and you shared as you finished your marathon, the first place winner was already on the plane home.
oh
And
yeah,
I watched that like 3 times in a row. I just kept laughing to myself. I was like, that is just crazy.
oh yeah.
But I think to your point, if I was to go bungee jumping and I looked at the bungee jumping and the resilience meter on it was like, I was like, I don't know about this one. The guy's like, this is totally safe. This is military grade equipment. You can jump off of this 100-foot bridge. And I'm like, it's in the red. It says 001. I don't know about that. I have to know, Steve, how high were you? Where were you jumping?
The jump I did was it was in London, and it was from a crane over water.
From a crane?
So
Like a
yeah, so they
construction crane?
pick up a crane, and the thing is, again, it's modeling the behavior for the outcome that you want. The outcome for the jump was to do a jump, was to actually,
Was
you
to
know,
live.
do the bungee jump. The experience, I mean, the experience you get is like free falling. It's a free fall experience.
Mhm.
People think that when the rope is at its maximum extension, that you feel the jar, you know, like a jarring sensation when you change direction, when you go from falling down to coming back up again. That's not, you don't feel that actually, because
Really?
well, you wouldn't, because it's maths, it's a sine wave. There's no sharp point at the end, at the maximum extension of the spring. It just naturally comes back into a different direction. So you change direction
So
or
if I create a
velocity.
bungee cord that goes like this, you could feel
If
it?
it was a rope, if it was a if it was a static piece of rope, yes, you'd feel it. Once the rope got
Awesome.
tight, you would feel it at the end.
I got to make
Um,
this for the adrenaline junkies who are like, bungee jumping is too boring for me. Well, try this one. I'll make a profit off of this
no,
one.
you definitely need something that slows you down at the end. But the point is that there's lots of steps and lots of procedures, and the person talks you through the exercise. You're in the crane with one other. It's only you go up with one, the person who operates the crane, and you. So you're not at the top with other people who are ready to jump. You're just there by yourself, and he gives you the instructions. You know, you get to the edge, you hop to the edge, you put your hands on the rails, and you look to the horizon, and you fall out, and you put your arms out. You keep your
Right.
arms out for a reason. It stops you from spinning. So you keep your arms out like a swallow dive, and you don't jump feet first. You fall out like this, so that you actually fall. You know, you fall head. But people went up there and thought, yeah, I saw there's a guy before me. He was like, yeah, I got this. He's got his friends down there on the ground saying, yeah, we got this. Whoa, 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 whoa. And he got weighed and got his band put on and all the straps and everything. And he's like, yeah, talking to his friends. And he got onto the crane and he's there, you know, waving to his friends as he goes up. And he totally was in the wrong state to follow the instructions. So he got to the top, and what he did was he looked down. And once he looked down from the cage, he went, whoa. And he was literally up there for 15 minutes. The guy talked him through it. In the end, did he? I think there's one option you got whereby you can stand on the edge, and the instructor holds your hands, and you lean out, and then you fall backwards, so you don't see the horizon. And he ended up doing the jump that way. But it was fun. It was bizarre. He was up there for so long. It's like talking someone off a ledge
Mm.
to jump.
See, in the
Long
military,
jump.
they have like, it's about like, maybe it's 90 feet or 80 feet. Maybe it's 50 feet. I don't even know. But
It's
you
just
have to,
350 feet, by the way.
yeah.
The crane is you're up around 325, 350 feet in the air. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a good. And
Yeah.
you're not anywhere near the water. I mean, you're
Mm.
still you may it's maybe a 200-foot drop or something.
It's
Well,
so interesting how going up and going down are like two completely different things. Because I remember when I rode the slingshot, and it's like you're launched like 400 feet in the air. The only time that like it ever felt really weird to me was when you were at the highest point, because you're literally kind of like, you know, frozen. Like you feel like that zero gravity effect
Yeah.
up top. But it's like, I don't know, when you're free falling, it's just different. But I think, Steve, like that example that you shared was kind of a good example of being resilient, because like a big part of resilience is being able to push through fear, or the flip side of it is also just like, I think there's a lot of resilience in one of the things that I said last year was like, give up what is not yours. So many times people look at like quitting and giving up as such a negative thing, when really that can be like the most freeing thing for people. So it's like the I look at resilience in that lens too, of like, you know, if everybody around you is doing one thing, like the fact that you're willing to kind of stay true to who you are and be willing to be different is a big part of that equation. Also, like with the way that the world is now, I don't look at it so much from like initial actions and like reactions that people have. I look at it more, the response is more kind of important to me, because it's like the world's so sensitive now. Like when you're having conversations and when you say things, like the odds that you're probably going to offend people are pretty high, just because a lot of times you go into things blind, trying to make your connections and all that stuff. But the huge part of it is in how you're willing to respond back, right? Because it's like so many times people choose the impulsive response. And there's a great quote that I love from, I think, Steve, we talked about this, the 10 scrolls of scroll 6 is today I am master of my emotions. And it talks about how strong is he who allows his actions to control his thoughts, and weak is he who allows his thoughts to control his actions. And I think that's like a big part of that emotional regulation piece, is being able to respond versus, you know, just come out and react. Yeah. And that's a big part of that as well. So I like what you shared too about the vulnerability piece.
And you know what, as you say
That was a T-shirt quote right there.
As you said that, the recounting the bungee exercise, the bungee jump exercise, the between me and the other person that jumped, they got the result. They ended up getting out of the crane and doing the bungee, but it would have been they would have been less empowered by it, because it wasn't under their own steam. They were so distracted by pleasing the audience, the crowd that they were, having this bravado image, and then having to actually be, you know, vulnerable at the top of the crane, and having to be sort of coached through the exercise. Whereas my intention was set from when my hope or my intention was set from the ground. I had people there, but I was focused on getting this thing done. And the point is that you can learn resilience from other resilient people. And that's probably one of the best ways to build your own resilience, is to lean on the resilience of others.
Stay hard.
You know, that's what I did in that exercise. The same with the skydiving. It was all about the people who do this day in, day out. It wasn't about me sort of trying to raise funds or trying to be make sure I look good on camera and all this stuff. It was, you lean on those that have got that resilience that you're striving for. You
did look good on camera. I watched those tapes back a couple times, and you did look good.
That's their job. It's not my job. My job was to complete.
Well, with your job, you showed up freshly waxed and polished, and you had nice trim, and
my face was like wobbling like a good one.
I remember watching that video. It was beautiful, and
but yeah,
the ancient historic soccer photo of you as well. I think that's one of my prized memories.
Steve, did I ever tell you my 12-hour walk story that I did.
You want to go, Don?
I
Thanks.
got to head out. Good to
Yeah,
see you
go ahead.
both. Good,
See you
good
later.
conversations. Oh, I shouldn't
All
say
right.
both. All three of you. Bye bye.
Take
I don't
care.
know who the
Bye.
initial both was, so we'll leave that for now.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Yes, you've shared that
Did I tell
12
you?
hour. Yeah.
Oh, I did. Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure, but that was just kind of my thought of the whole resilience thing. Because before I did it, it was kind of like a night before thing, and I had never walked for like an hour, or in maybe like 6-7 months. It was after I got like COVID and stuff, and I had an idea of like what I wanted to walk, and then by the time I was done, I think I like 5x'd it. I ended up walking like over a marathon
Wow.
in 12 hours, and that was my plan, was just to walk. So I think like that's what's so interesting about the resilience thing. And we talked about expectations and all that, and I think for me, like, that was one of the reasons why I found that when I removed the expectations, like, things just became a lot more free, in my interactions with people, and just being like present versus being like, oh, I'm going to go to this and, this. Cause it's like, as you know, right, Steve, like, life tends to, one of my favorite phrases is like, life be lifing. I heard it by like some young person, and I was like, it just stuck
Say
with
it
me.
again. Say it again.
That's some Gen Z slang right there.
Yeah.
Life.
Life be lifing. Life
Be
be
life.
life. Yeah. And it's funny because I was just thinking about it, and something always comes up, right? Like, you want to do these things, you have plans to do X or Y. And what's funny is like something always came up. And what I found was, when I removed expectations, whether it was like, sales calls or events or all these things, and I would just go and be present, everything always worked out like so much better than I could have imagined. And it's almost just like, I think like people have so many expectations of like how they want things to be or what they think it is versus like how it actually is. And you and I talk about that all the time on
Yeah.
like why LinkedIn is slowly evolving, is because people are realizing that it's not what it was 15-20 years ago.
No.
And it's important to look at things for what they are versus what they were, how you want them to be. And I think resilient, it's a clear example of that, because you could have an expectation or an idea of what resilience is, but everybody's perspective and their own, they could be at different levels of resilience, right? Like, there's always levels to things. And that was one of the big things that I would always tell a lot of people, is like, you're losing your resilience and your identity in comparing yourself to all these other people, because if you don't do things exactly the way that they do, or if you don't want the same things, then it's like, it's kind of pointless for you to follow them.
Yeah.
And that's why I think so many people, they lose that resilience, because people have been kind of trained and programmed to be like followers, right? Like that. Just look at the language on social media, like followers. And I don't know if we talked about this it's probably a conversation for another time, but it's really interesting how, if you look at like cult, like the cult is the root word of like culture. And if you look at like the language of on social media and a lot of these other things, like it's so interesting to see why the world is the way that it is, is because people are being programmed. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a lot of it.
That's crazy.
Stop giving your 2-year-olds iPads. Bluey, no more Bluey.
No more Bluey. Now, and the thing, well, to your point about the showing up as you, having the platforms and things influence you. Like I say, lean on someone else's resilience.
Yep.
In an example where you want to grow in that area of resilience. Now, I'm not that person. It's a halo effect. I'm the bungee jumper instructor doesn't live the ideal life that I want. They just know how to bungee jump, and they got me through that area of resilience. I can use the metaphor of bungee jumping in other areas to give myself a boost that says I can actually grow my own resilience by leaning on past resilience
Yep.
as much as I can by leaning on somebody else's
Yeah.
resilience.
I've
They-
made it through worse.
It's
right.
it's that whole idea of like impossible equals impossible, right?
Mm.
Like you have like a situation
He
that
said it. He said the thing.
you didn't think was possible, and then you do it, and then it becomes like possibility. And you, when you get into previous situations, you can use the past times that you've been in like impossible situations,
Mm.
and you realize that you came out on the other side. That was actually how impossible equals impossible became the mantra, because for a while it was just a show and a legacy project that I wanted to kind of give back. And then
Mhm.
that was how I got through my 12-hour walk. Was when things would get tough, I would always tell myself like impossible equals impossible, and I would just like constantly repeat that to myself. And then next thing I knew, the 12 hours was done, it was raining, and there's a lot of I learned a lot in that experience about the whole like mind over matter thing, because the last like hour or two I thought that I was done, and I was so mad when I was on my way back and my walking stick broke and it was like started to rain, and I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, this is the time where we're gonna really find out like what we're made of. And I ended up making it back, and then I told my aunt, I was like, wow, I could have gone for like another 12 hours. Like it's weird how once you get towards the end and you realize like, wow, I have so much more in the tank. And it kind of just goes back to that idea of, it's hard to see the picture while you're in the photo.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you need somebody else they can usually see that you have more in you than you have in yourself. But a lot of people, the comfort zone's kind of easy. I remember like my mentor always used to say, and she would explain like why she would take us to these retreats, and we always had to travel and all these different things. And every time I would have like travel complications, and I would come back and I was just so unaffected, because she taught us to essentially be like unoffendable basically. And one of the things that's helped me so much on social media is that everything is feedback, right? Like it's so easy how you can turn around negativity. Like the one thing, as much as I despise like TikTok and all these platforms that I call the unholy trinity, it teaches you a lot about being able to bounce back and be resilient, because people are cruel. I mean, you'll post like some video and trying to like help people, and they'll respond back with like some of the meanest things. And I always used to reply back like, oh, thank you so much for your feedback. Have a great day. And that would be the end.
Would they text you stuff like, you should stick to milk and cow udders? Because I got that one. You should just stick to milk and cow udders. So I was like, ooh.
Right.
I mean, it's funny, but like that just always became
Yeah.
my response. Like when people were so cruel, I'd always say like, hey, thank you so much for your feedback. Have a great day. And it's like in
They
that
shut them
moment,
down. They
yeah,
don't even know how to respond.
right. And it's funny, Steve, you'll like this, because I know we're talking about pickleball. So like I had to learn, because sometimes like when I play pickleball, I get excited, and you get in these like strength matches with people and you hit it hard. Well, what was funny was I was watching the video, and it was a lady who was talking, and she said, oh, she's like, if people want to do that, everybody wants to like match strength with strength, but what you do is like you just like finesse it. So it's like if they hit it hard, then you just like tap it over,
Yeah.
like, and then well, it's almost kind of just like they're reacting and you're responding, right? Because it's like they're impulsive and they're mad. They just want to hit it as hard. So it's like it's kind of interesting how a lot of that crosses over into a lot of things, and being able to de-escalate and like take away a lot of the power. That was what she said, because she's like, if you don't like hit back with power and you finesse it, you take away their power. It's almost the same thing online. Like so many people give other people like power over them, when there's a way that you can flip that perspective and just say like, thank you so much for your feedback. And the end of that whole phrase is, there's a quote by Ken Blanchard that says feedback is the breakfast of champions. Yeah. And everything's feedback. I mean, if you think about it, like everything's feedback. If I said, oh, Mr. Whiskey, that's a terrible hat, right? Like, why are you wearing that hat, right? And you could respond like one of two ways.
Now, calm it.
Die.
Respond. Don't react, Mr. Whiskey.
Right, but I'm
I
just
just
saying,
want
like,
everyone to
don't
know
react.
that I've never milked cow udders. I just want to put that out there in case there was any confusion. I've never done that. I just want that to know. But my thing is, it's funny because I've had multiple guests say, for example, if I were to make a comment about Mr. Whiskey's hat, everyone always says that. Everyone goes straight for the hat. But what I'm hearing, I want, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, the big takeaway is if you're in a situation right now that needs resiliency, what would Steve Wright do? Would he give up? How can you mirror him and just be like Steve? That's what I heard. That's what my takeaway.
Well. As we're 1 hour 20, so I'm gonna wrap.
Final
I'm gonna
messages.
wrap. But on the closing comments, the closing thoughts are yes, resilience is something that is essential. We need, because life is going to deform us. So the ability to come back to our normal state, whether that's our resting state, our normal activity state, is important. Understanding where that state is important. Understanding who you are when you are not being acted upon is important. One of the things that Dean said in his post, in his live, was that people have polarizing views, and they're not, their authenticity is compromised because they're trying to maybe just rile people up. The important thing is you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are when there's nothing acting on you, so that you know where your basal state or your normal state is. When things come and deform you, tweak your brain, or mess with you physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, then you're now in testing your resilience and leaning on your own previous resilience in stories that experiences that you've had that have shown that you've gone through these things. Having a hope to come back to a normal state is important, and also leaning on trusted people. I've not met you guys in person, but you're in my trusted space, in the sense that we have enough communication and dialogue and understanding that I will always learn and glean from our interactions. So for me, that's a place where I can draw resilience from, and that's so important. And don't go down the shoulds. Don't should on yourself, especially with strangers,
I
because
like that.
shooting with strangers is definitely a shortcut to losing who you are.
Especially social media. We've said it on many of the virtual coolers. Their highlights, their day 100s, and they might have things artificially helping their resilience that you don't. So I think that whole comparison thing too, with like when you draw resilience and lean on it from other people, have a spirit of discernment with who you're drawing from.
Discernment. That's another final point, Paul.
I think like what's so interesting, and I would love to touch on this next week because I missed the first like 15-20 minutes. I had something to do, but I've never really liked the word authentic because it really became kind of like a buzzword on LinkedIn, and for me, like, I replaced it with genuine. And I think it really all just comes down to, in this whole like social media space, like, I think people just overcomplicate it, honestly. Like, at the end of the day, it comes down to starting conversations, having conversations, and building relationships. And it's nothing more than a vehicle and a tool to do that. And people get so caught up in the technical aspect and the pieces of it, and they kind of lose sight of the picture of it all. And that's what I would say. Like, if you, my last thought is something that my mentor told me, and she said that the more you are, the more that the work is done for you. And it's like, I look at social media as nothing more than a sorting tool. Mr. Whiskey and I were kind of talking about this because when we met, I never really had to share much about like my story and who I was, because it's all on my LinkedIn profile. So it's like, when we meet, I get to listen and learn, more about him and what he's doing. but then also like it kind of just sorts people, right? Because if people don't connect to that, or if they're not in that space to um where they can kind of handle that, or that's like something that they're interested in, then the fact that like I'm not for people, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I think like a lot of people are trying to be everything to everyone, and
Yeah.
because of that they get nothing. And that's like just a big part of it, it's just being yourself. And Steve, I know you love quotes, so I'll share just this last one with you. And I remember my mentor told me, she said, cur- um, have the courage to break yourself down with truth, and then put yourself back together with truth. And I think for me, like that quote kind of just sums up resilience. I look at it as the ability to break yourself down and then put yourself back together.
Yeah, with truth. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because yeah, and that's interesting because the thing that often the things that deform you, the things that stress you, are also the things that bring you back. So that's very powerful. Mr. Whiskey, Paul, this has been great as always. Yeah, we'll touch on some of these thoughts. I'm gonna pull some gems out of this and share on
Yeah,
social
make
media.
some social media plays. I was excited.
I
Well, first of all, Ms. Wright, Steve's mom, thanks for watching. I hope you know that your son is in good hands, and I hope you learned a lot about him through this interaction. I think to Paul's point, one of the things that we've talked about in addiction recovery is the more when you tell the truth, life is easy. You don't have to worry about remembering stuff. When you tell lies, you have to keep up with all those lies, and if you're telling different lies to different people, your life becomes a lot more complicated. And my big takeaway is just, ladies and gentlemen, please come back next week if Steve allows it. I want to talk about the domestic violence awareness, sexual assault, and human trafficking awareness event that I got to host, and some of this stuff I learned there. Some big, heavy topics, and some stuff I definitely want to talk about, and some good stuff I want to promote as well. So
Cool.
come
Well,
back for that if Steve allows it.
yeah. That's the cool the coolest here. It's an open forum for dialogue and communication, and I really enjoyed it today. Thank you guys. I'm playing Cajon. Self pitch now. I'm playing Cajon in Lancaster Music Festival. So I'm
Okay.
with a couple of musicians, acoustic sets, and I'm excited. It's going to be fun. It's going to be busy weekend. Lots of music, which again just lights me up. So looking forward to that. If you're in the Lancaster, UK area, come on.
Booking
Come
my
on
flight
down.
right now, Steve. Because I gotta record it and then do a live interview if you called a couple of musicians. Yeah.
Couple of musician nukes. Do you play anything? Well,
I'm buying and going to learn how to play the lyre. It's like a little harp.
the string. Yeah.
Yeah, from the biblical times. And I used to play the violin.
Like
So,
the angels play on the clouds. That
yeah, I mean that's not my motivation for it. King David played it. It calmed the evil spirit in King Saul. So
okay.
it's pretty interesting. And they're typically what I'm gonna like custom paint the front of it, or I'm gonna have Camille custom paint the front of it. But
There you go.
I'm not an artist. So
Very cool. Very cool. Do you play anything, Paul? Are you musical?
I haven't. My mom's like a really, really good singer, but I don't like sing or play anything. I think I told you this, Steve. When I was in like seventh, eighth grade, I played the bassoon for like
Oh,
band.
nice.
And then yeah, it was interesting. My grandparents were like, "What is this?" Because it kind of looks like a
it
big
took
like
resilience.
Pipe with the cheek thing on the
yeah.
back. Yeah.
Well, it kind of if you kind of like look at it from a weird angle, it could kind of be like a RPG type of thing because there's so like a rocket launcher because there's so many like
Yeah.
pieces to it. And my grandpa's like, "What in the heck are you bringing home this weapon?" I was like, "Grandpa, it is not.
Paying
It is.
attention.
It is not a weapon. It's an instrument." And my grandma played the trombone, and I was like, I don't want to play any of these brass things. I always loved like the most complicated thing because I love challenging myself, and that was like the one instrument that nobody signed up for.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll play it, and
Mm.
it was challenging for sure because you had to do like
Very resilient of you. That's what I'm
you had to
hearing.
do you had to do multiple things, but it was a good time. I really respect people who are like musically and artistically talented, because that's just like, if my life depended on that ability, I probably wouldn't be here at the start.
Build resilience in that area, because it
Yeah.
will permeate to other things in life as well.
I'm doing that with Inktober. It's rough, Steve.
Oh.
If you go on my Instagram, you can see I drew my dog with a mustache. It's rough. It's not going well.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for people checking on the replay as well. Reach out to us on our respective platforms, and we're here in LinkedIn
Couple
as
of
well.
nukes@gmail.com.
All right, I'm gonna end it here now. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
Steve.
Appreciate it. All
Have a
right,
good
take
day.
care.